Okay, now that we've taken a bunch of steps and we've built in a lot of the knowledge we need to do this, we're going to talk about how to approximate a square root to the nearest tenth without a calculator. All right, so that's the key here. This is a completely non-calculator approach with a lot of good estimation skills and some division thrown in. So let's actually walk you through from start to finish. All right, so this is one particular problem. Let's start with square root of 28. All right, so up until now, we've talked about, okay, square root of 28. Well, that goes right there between square root of 25 and square root of 36, right? And we know by looking at that means we're between 5 and 6 for our answer, and it's closer to 5, right? So then we extended that a little bit, and we said, okay, well, what are our possible answers there? Well, if it's closer to 5, it's everything at 5.5 and before it, right? So we talked about this on our first day of the week this week, and now we figured out that these are our possible answers. Well, if it's closer to 5, it could be 5.0 when we round it, 5.1, 5.2, 5.3, 5.4, or 5.5. So we've narrowed it down to which part of the number line that is. Okay, so that takes us up to today. Let's take the next step from here. All right, so remember, when we're doing this, we want to get a fraction, and then we can change that fraction to a decimal. That's why we practice that skill. So let's go ahead and take a look here. This is how we construct our fraction. First of all, is go for that first distance, right? The first distance between the first square number that it's bigger than, and then the 28 right there. So that distance is 3. Now, in other problems, this is where you might get a little confused. In other problems, we were looking for the distance between the other two numbers. But now for this, to get the fraction, we need the total distance between the square numbers, right? So that means our second number that we're using for our fraction is that difference between 25 and 36. So if I subtract 36 and 25, I get 11. So there's an 11-point difference there. Those are the two numbers that create our fraction. All right, so remember, that brings us to this, that creating our fraction and our answer becomes right there. There's our fraction, the top over the bottom, right? So the total, remember, the total distance is always in the denominator. Remember, we're always going to get a proper fraction where the numerator's smaller in this case. And then notice, this is our answer, right? That's our answer before we have to now change it to a decimal. But 5 3/11, that is our answer. So the first part of class today, we're just going to make sure you can get that first fraction, right? That's going to be the first part. We're going to practice this actual part right here. But now let's, again, take the next steps on this. Now we have to change 3/11 to a decimal to see which one of those. Is it 5.0, 0.1, 0.2, 0.3, 0.4, or 0.5? All right, so let's take a look here, and let's set up our division as we usually do and put in our numbers in the correct place. Remember, it's 3 divided by 11, so that top number goes inside. All right, so let's do our division. Right, let's just review that from top to bottom because you're going to do this today as well, right? So there we go. We did this on the warm-up, so here we go. There we go. 11 goes into 30 twice, giving 22, so we subtract 22 there. We get 8. We bring down the 0. We only do 2 divisions because we're rounded back to the 10th. We only need to find what's going on there. So 11 into 80. How many times? That looks like 7, giving me 77 left to take away. And again, remember, I can stop right there. Done. I don't need to finish because it says to round to the nearest 10th. So I just say, okay, there is my 10th place like we do. And we look at our buddy right there, the 7, the neighbor there says, oh, that is more than 5. So that 0.2 actually rounds to 0.30 or then turns to 0.3. So we are pretty much finished. That is what our answer is. That 0.3, again, that represents that 3/11 as a decimal, right? So now we put it all together and talk about what is our answer, our approximate to the nearest 10th? It's going to be right there. Notice there's those squigglies. That's the approximation. So square root of 28 is approximately, and we put the 5 together with the 0.3, and that is our final answer. 5.3 is approximated for square root of 28 to the nearest 10th. And just to finish it up, remember that there's our number line, right? And we can see that 5.3 is indeed right there on our number line, right at the 0.3 section. And in fact, if you notice, when we go back to our possible answers, that was one of the original possible answers that we had found in the beginning. And that's how you do it. That's how you estimate. It sounds like a longer process than it is. We're going to work at different parts and put this all together today, people. Nice job. But that's how you find the approximate of a square root to the nearest tenth when you round it.